I will tell you, I would have told you I had nothing going on out of the ordinary before I started the patches. I actually had a hiking injury, plantar fasciitis. I was teaching 10 aerobic classes a week. I was hiking up and down Pikes Peak in Colorado Springs with my 2-year-old on my back. My husband was deployed. He's a military guy. One day, my feet went through my shoes. I thought I busted my shoes, but I didn't. And so I have dealt with feet injuries since 2003, and it was manageable. You know, you can wear orthotics and you can rest and ice and do all those things. Well, in 2014, I went to cosmetology school. Essentially, the plantar fasciitis took me out of my career as a fitness professional because I couldn't be on my feet for any length of time without pain for in other ways in my life. So I was able to manage it. And then in 2015, I went to cosmetology school thinking, okay, this is great. I can manage it. But I was on my feet for 12 to 14 hours a day. And I honestly didn't know how much pain I was in because I was also a military soldier at one point in my life. And I just sucked it up. Like you don't know what you don't know till it's not there. And just to describe what my feet felt like, because it's kind of important to the story, you know, when little babies are born and their feet are super rigid, like there's no movement in them at all, that was my feet. So the patches arrived like just in time before the convention started. I put the patch on my neck, not even reading the directions, only put one on. I was supposed to put two. And 45 minutes later, pain I didn't realize I had, or the extent that I had it, went from like an 8 to a 3. And within 3 days of wearing those patches, I had pain in both of my feet. I had a left heel spur and I had a right knee injury. And all of that pain was gone in 3 days. I was like shocked. I'm like, it felt like something right out of Star Trek. And I was like, is this a placebo? I mean, it can't be true. But my husband would rub my feet every night. I'm kind of spoiled that way. And he can tell you that my feet felt back to normal. Like, and if you have pain in your feet, you know exactly what I'm talking about. It's not comfortable. And you don't even realize how much it's changing your life until you have your life back. And so like little things like we'd want to go to the grocery store together. He would go alone. He'd want to go out to dinner. I'm like, can you bring it back? I was stopping, like not living my life to its fullest. And I didn't realize I had another option. And we're new grandparents. We have a granddaughter that's going to be 2 in May. And just getting on the floor to play with her and getting up off the floor was like, it was hard. And I'll be 61 in April. And I'm like, this is not what I want for my life. So when the patches came into my life, I will tell you, I was shocked. But it didn't stop there. I am a licensed cosmetologist and I focus on scalp and hair health. And I've been working with my husband's scalp for 7 years. And we had one area in the back of his crown that wasn't growing. Now, I could feel something in the back, but I couldn't see it with the naked eye. Well, I started studying trichology. So I have this scope and I could see little tiny hairs. And now they're black and they're like 3/4 of an inch. He jokes with me often about pulling his hair. And it's growing and it hadn't grown before. And so we're excited. We've only been on the patches since mid-August. I can't wait to see what it's like a year from now because not only is his hair filling in, each strand is feeling thicker. When I first met my husband, we just celebrated our 35th wedding anniversary. His hair was coarse and it was thick and it was pitch black. And over the years, it was still thick, but the texture changed. It got finer and then thinner, and then it started thinning. And now it's growing in, and each strand is getting thicker. And what I'll tell you that I've learned about hair and the hair follicle is stem cells help the hair follicle, the bulb where your hair sits when it starts to grow. It helps to make the hair grow in thicker. And I'm witnessing that with my husband. So I have incorporated it into my studio with my clients who are hair follically challenged, and it's amazing. But the biggest thing that has happened for me in my life is my mom. My mom is 87. And from the day after I got married for 35 years, I have called my mama every single day. My parents, my dad passed away, but I always wanted my parents to know how much I love them. And when you talk to somebody on the phone every single day, you notice changes. You notice them when you're in person, even more so when you don't get to see them all the time. But the conversations with my mom became, in the last 3 or 4 years, very difficult. She couldn't articulate herself. Most of the time, she didn't know I was her daughter talking to her. She couldn't remember my name. And when I would go to visit, I could point to my wedding picture that had been sitting up on her, her wall for 30 years, and she wouldn't know I was her daughter. And it was heartbreaking. And so in September, I went home and I started patching my mom. The first thing I noticed was her energy was incredible. For 87 years old, that lady can walk miles around me. Like, she's physically really strong. She wasn't sleeping during the day. She could handle the chaos of a large Italian family with all the grandkids and everybody coming into town. And she kept cool. And as soon as I got back from California, my mom called me on the phone, which I know that sounds kind of silly, but my mom hadn't called me for a long time on her own accord. And so for her to call me back on her own was like a huge thing. And so I left. I was coordinating with my siblings in town to patch her, but they didn't actually start patching her until sometime in the first or second week of January. And since then, my mom has called me 3 times. She knows exactly who I am. I don't often give her a chance to call me because, like I said, I'm the one calling her. It's something I've always done. And the other night, my husband and I had a 54-minute conversation with my mom.
Wow.
It was coherent. It was
Wow.
logical. She did repeat, and I don't have any like clinical studies on her. She's not seen the doctor. I can just tell you my personal experiences. She remembers my name. My son was traveling down to see her and spend the night with her. She had talked to him earlier. She had told me that he was coming. She remembered his name. And most of the time she keeps before this, she was asking me if I was married, or she was confusing me with her long life childhood friend who lived in Santa Barbara. So like all these little things are showing me that my mom is improving, and I can hear in her voice she's not as afraid or paranoid or worried that somebody's mad at her. All the things that happen to people who start to lose their memory are fading. And I can't wait. My goal is to get my mom to come here and stay with me for 3 months so I can patch her consistently, because the challenge is she's a feisty Italian woman and sometimes she doesn't want to be patched. And so, if they get it on her every second day, I'm happy with that. I know that between my husband and I, we'll be able to patch her every single day. So I'm hopeful that the mom that I had even 10 years ago, 10 years ago, she and her best friend, who was also 78, were flying to Europe together, and she couldn't do that now. She's a good traveler still now, but she couldn't do it with her friend. And so if I can get her 10 years in reverse, I'll just be really grateful.